9:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? My name is Chris Hand. I got a lot of radio to do today. I'm doing my show 9 to noon, and then I'm filling in on the drive for Brian Wilson this afternoon, 3 to 7. So
call that a double feature.
It's going to be a lot of Chris. A lot of Chris.
Can't complain though.
I appreciate you tuning in. If you listen a little, if you listen a lot, if you're listening on the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app, if you're watching on Super Talk TV, on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, if you're listening to this after the fact on the podcast, I appreciate you as well. Podcasts are always available on Apple and Spotify. We get into this day. It's an agenda-free Friday. I know we haven't done it as good as we should.
Yeah,
we've kind of been slacking in that arena, so I want to be a little bit more authentic on this agenda-free Friday.
But here's the thing. We follow the flow of the news, and the news has been wild recently. So you got to give us a little bit of slack.
The news has been
a little bit of slack.
Insane. There's been less time to talk about birds not being real because we've had to actually cover stories that are important.
Because they're affecting our lives. I mean, the birds not being real definitely affect my life, but
it was never the same after you found out.
Yeah, you rocked my world.
It's a meme on the internet that birds aren't real, but
yeah.
It's like actually factually proven that they've reverse engineered dead birds to act as drones.
Yeah. They charge on telephone wires.
Well, I don't know if that part's real.
Well, I don't know. If you watch them, they all line up there and they just sit there for long periods of time. I think they're charging, man.
I think the tech now is so far ahead. Like dragonflies aren't real. You know,
I was like, flies aren't real, man.
Oh yeah.
I was like, have you seen the cameras that they use to like do surgeries and whatnot? They're tiny. So to put that on a little fly.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I could see it.
I could see that too.
Yeah.
You know, they tried to, at one point during the Cold War, train spy cats.
Really?
Yeah, they were setting up listening devices to cats, but you couldn't train a cat. So it was abandoned rather quickly.
They do what they want.
All right, so Agenda Free Friday. Anything you want to talk about, we can talk about it. 615-737-9986. I do want to get into the absolute cope and seethe from CNN. From everybody on the left, to be perfectly honest with you. Oh my gosh, the cope and seethe. The Daily Beast had a headline, and it made me laugh. The headline, the Daily Beast is like a leftist rag. It's like you've heard of the Daily Caller. The Daily Caller is a conservative outlet. The Daily Beast is like the absolute opposite of it in every single way. So the Daily Beast had a headline that said, Donald Trump said the interview was boring, but that's not a bad thing. This is the cope and seethe from the left. The cope and seethe is everywhere. Kamala Harris sat down for her first interview yesterday. Now, to put things in perspective, we had to wait 40 days since she became the nominee for this interview. 40 days. And the interview was 18 minutes long, edited. We have no transcript, and she arrived with a chaperone. Now, on the flip side, the last 4 interviews for Donald Trump have been major interviews. Dr. Phil, 57 minutes long. It has 1.7 million views on YouTube. Theo Vaughn, 57 minutes long, 12 million views on YouTube. Elon Musk, 2 hours and 3 minutes long, 27 million people tuned in live. Countless millions listened after the fact. 72% of those listeners were under 34 when it was happening in real time. Donald Trump sat down with Sean Ryan. That interview was 1 hour and 11 minutes, 2.5 million views. Again, Kamala's first interview after waiting and waiting and waiting. 18 minutes edited. We get no transcript, and there was a chaperone. You did great, kid. You gave it the college try. The body language the entire time was so off. She was so small and shriveled up in the middle of what looked like an empty Denny's diner with the lights off. And she looked like the smallest one next to Tim Walz and Dana Bash. She looked tiny. She looked shriveled. And I'll be honest with you, I've known an alcoholic or two. And if you look at Kamala Harris, the bags under the eyes, the puffiness of the face, I believe the alcoholic rumor more and more every day. She didn't look well. We made the joke the other day that, they've been on this 2-day bus tour throughout Georgia. And we say, well, it's the struggle bus tour. During that interview, Kamala Harris was still on the struggle bus.
Do you think it's lack of sleep? Do you think Tim Walz snores on the bus so she just can't take it?
They're not sleeping on that bus. Listen, she looks like she drinks all night.
Yeah.
She looks like she drinks all night. And take it from a guy who doesn't drink anymore because he used to drink all night. That's what you look like. It's written all over her face. I don't know how you get away from it. The more I see her, the more I believe that.
Walks like a goose, squawks like a goose.
Can I just say something?
Yes,
absolutely.
Please.
I think that ABC did her no favors because of the setting. Now, just take into consideration how she looked, like the way that it was set up. Tim Walz was sitting next to her. He appeared to be he is bigger than her, but he appeared to be a monster compared to her. She was set down into a seat.
He was towering over her.
Yeah. The lighting was not good. And she looked slumped over, like her shoulders actually appeared to be over, and she was resting. It just looked very odd to me, like that's the way it was CNN would set her up in the first place. It was a bad deal.
Yeah, the optics are bad. Brian Wilson has made the point, like when you're in TV, watch it on mute and you can tell how good they're doing.
Yeah.
If you watch that interview on mute, she looked awful. It didn't look presidential in the least bit.
No.
Yeah, body language not conveying power at all. It's been almost defeated, kind of like, if it's very inward like that, then yeah, I don't know.
It wasn't a good look.
I noticed those bags that you were talking about right away. It was the first thing I saw.
And I'm not like, I don't want to make it like a sexist thing, like, oh, she didn't look like a pretty woman. I don't know. She's not remarkably pretty to start, but I'm just talking about she looked like she hasn't been sleeping. She looked like she's been over drinking, and that was my takeaway. I could be wrong about the drinking, but I don't know how else you explain that.
But still, the presidency is such a stressful job, and seeing how it's affected other presidents throughout the years, if this is what happens from her just campaigning, there's no way she's going to be able to take the actual toll of being a president in the country.
Right. Do you remember when President Obama it seemed like he turned gray overnight?
Yep.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
That moment that I first saw him, I thought, whoa, this job must really be stressful. I thought that when I saw Kamala Harris, just the campaigning must be terrible. What's it going to be like when she's, if she's actually the president?
Yeah, and there was a lot of conversation on what she would do if she was actually president last night, but everybody forgets that she's still in office now.
Yeah.
You could start all those great ideas today if you wanted to. One of the things that really struck me was she said, we're working day and night to get a ceasefire and bring the hostages home. And it blew my mind, the lack of awareness. Joe Biden is on his second week of vacation and you're on the campaign trail. How are you working day and night to get the hostages home? The whole thing was a huge miss, and you knew it was a miss from the moment you get to CNN after the interview. They have a huge panel of people. You got Abby Phillips, you got David Axelrod, you got Scott Jennings, who's the best thing going on CNN, and Abby Phillips. They're all doing their own spin. Abby Phillips had this to say about the vice president.
One of the things that struck me about, and as someone who, like Ested, has covered Kamala Harris before, she is a homework doer.
Oh, that's the praise that Kamala Harris is getting from leftist CNN. She's a homework doer. You can tell she did her homework. That's the praise. David Axelrod didn't feign the praise. David Axelrod, former Obama senior advisor, he said, listen, she didn't move the ball forward at all.
It wasn't I don't think she moved the ball that much forward.
No, she didn't. She didn't move the ball forward one bit. And there was another panelist who said, no, she moved the ball. She moved the ball a little bit.
Now, you might not like the way she answered him, but she answered him as a capable, qualified leader. And I do think she moved the ball forward a little bit. You know, maybe she didn't score a touchdown.
Okay. She moved the ball a little bit. She didn't score a touchdown. She answered questions. She didn't get lost in her own thoughts the way the dementia-riddled man on vacation quite often does in these interviews. So that's an improvement. That's the bar was low. It's ticked up a little bit. The hype behind this interview, I think, set her up to fail. And I do believe that maybe the last interview we get before November 5th. It's certainly going to be the last interview we get before September 10th. You know, they're going to sit on their hands and wait for this debate. We're going to be hosting a debate party live at Scoreboard Cedar Creek in Mount Juliet, where we're going to watch that thing with you live. Brian Wilson's going to do a show down there. Then myself, Mandis, and Murphy. We can't wait for that. And I think we're going to see her poll numbers continue to drop. And we're seeing that in real time. Trump is actually favored to win in a new Nate Silver election forecast, which is fantastic. He's favored to win as of August 29th. Trump is leading in his forecast with a chance of 52.4% versus Harris's projected 47.3%. So the honeymoon phase appears to be over. And that interview didn't do her any favors. Didn't do any favors. August 14th, that same Nate Silver prediction, right? The same Nate Silver 538 forecast on August 14th had Harris at 56.7, Trump at 42.7. August 29th, Trump at 52.4%, Harris at 47.3. What happened? What happened? Oh, we got to know Kamala Harris. We watched the DNC. It was more of the same. Orange man bad. I'm going to fix everything. Ignore the fact that I'm in power now. This interview, I think, is going to make her poll numbers drop even more. And they can't prop her up anymore because she can't do any favors for herself. And she didn't do any favors for herself during this interview on CNN. None. Not one. She was asked about what she'll do on day one, and you'll be surprised.
The voters are really eager to hear what your plans are. If you are elected, what would you do on day one in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you, first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class.
You know, it's always about the middle class. You spent the last 3.5 years destroying the middle class. But don't worry, guys. Day one, she'll be looking out for us.
When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people, I think that people are ready for a new way forward. In a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism.
Oh, yeah. We're looking for a new way forward. Please ignore the fact that I've been vice president since 2021. Please ignore everything that happened while serving as Joe Biden's vice president. People are looking for a new way forward. And you know what? Kamala Harris says she's the one to give you a new way forward. Do you believe her? Of course not. She really tried to make you forget that she's been one of the last people in the room for the last 3.5 years. In fact, that's going to be a campaign strategy moving forward. Focus on early career, focus on prosecutor, focus on DA, focus on senator, except for the radical promises she made while running for president in 2020. And then nothing happened from 2021 to 2024, and now she's going to save the world. That's their campaign strategy. And that was on full display during this interview. We're going to bring you all of the audio from the Kamala Harris interview on the way on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, No open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50.
Coming up here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, we are bracing for impact. The roads are about to get jammed with holiday travelers. And what police found in a hotel room this week that may have an impact on you. Those stories coming up at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan Jones. We're excited to have you joining the Chris Hand Show for part of the morning. Joan's a great addition. Me and Joan go to church together.
We do.
Yeah.
We always end up sitting in this big church. We always end up sitting like a couple of rows away from each other.
I just want to get on the record that I liked Joan Jones before it was cool to like Joan Jones. So my wife was very excited. She said, Joan's solid.
Virginia is the most wonderful woman ever.
Amen.
Yeah.
I agree.
You're a lucky guy.
I have great taste in women. She has questionable taste in men. It's 9:22 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're talking about this interview. A lot of softballs. Dana. She did have some good questions. She did push back a little bit. But it took less than a minute into the interview for Kamala Harris to bring up Orange Man.
I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation, and I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
This is the new talking point from Kamala Harris that she regurgitated over and over during this interview. It's not even about the Trump presidency now. Now it's about the last decade. Donald Trump is responsible for the last decade. So the tail end of the Obama administration, then the 4 great years when he was president, and then the disastrous Biden-Harris regime. All of the negative is Donald Trump's fault, and he gets no credit for any positivity. It's a weird pivot, but I guess that's what they're going for. And even later on in the interview, Kamala Harris says, no, I understand that we've been in power, but Donald Trump has been a bad guy for a decade. Brent in Spring Hill wants to talk about the first interview. Brent, you're on Super Talk. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. What are your thoughts?
Well, I looked at the commercial, the infomercial for Kamala Harris last night, and my thought is, if I were her, I would be angry because they had her chaperone there. They gave her softball questions. If I were her, I would say, look, I'm a big girl. I can take a real interview, and I don't need a minder here. And they do her no favors with this over-managing stuff.
I think that you're giving her a lot of credit because you said if you were her, you'd say I'm a big girl. I don't need a minder. I don't need a softball interview. But she absolutely needs all of those things.
That could be that. If that's the case, then it's very sad.
I think it's more than sad, but I think Brent, she absolutely needs every one of those advantages. I appreciate the call. I don't think Kamala Harris can do an interview by herself. I think that they definitely edited some stuff out. I think they might have edited out more Tim Walz because we only really got one question from Tim Walz about stolen valor of all things, and it just seems like she can't do this on her own. She doesn't have that Batman energy that you want from the president of the United States. She can't talk intelligently about the issues. She deflects and she says, well, it's actually Trump's fault, believe it or not. It took a minute and a half into the interview for her to bring up Donald J. Trump. Now, Dana, I'm probably going to say Dana all day. I apologize. Dana Bash, she does rip Harris for the economy. She does push back a little bit. And I got a few messages during the interview. People were like, did somebody replace Dana Bash with someone else? No, I think that there was a lot of pressure on her that she did need to ask some hard questions. And to her credit, she did. But there wasn't really much follow-up when Kamala deflected.
You talked about, you call it the opportunity economy. You are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability. One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
I mean, it's a good question. What do you say to voters that actually are looking forward to going back? I'm one of those voters. I am sure anybody paying their own bills are one of those voters. How does Kamala answer the question after being ripped for the economy? Well, Kamala has a standard answer. She blames Trump.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, I mean, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world.
Okay, so we wanted to save America. And today, inflation's under 3% because when we came in, it was a disaster. But she ignores the fact that when they came in, inflation was at 2.2%. She ignores the fact that the jobs were coming back because the pandemic was ending. She ignores the fact that more people died under Biden-Harris from COVID than under Trump from COVID. Not that I'm really like, it's COVID, but it's just such a stupid talking point. It's just orange man bad, orange man bad, orange man bad. And the jobs that were coming back through no work of her own. And she ignores the fact that she was the tie-breaking vote there in the American Rescue Plan and the Inflation Reduction Act, and that she actually made inflation explode in 2021, 2022, and 2023. Inflation now, we're a little bit, we're right around 3%. It was 2.2 when you took power. And that 3% means prices are still going up, just not as fast as they were, and prices are still extraordinarily high. And I don't hear her talking about how she's going to bring them down. Anytime Trump is at a rally, he's saying, listen, we're going to drill, we're going to bring down the cost of energy, which is going to ripple across the economy and bring down your costs. We don't get that kind of analysis or in-depth explanation from Kamala Harris. It's all surface level. And I'll bring you more of Kamala's comments after the news with Joan. Plus, we'll get to your calls on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. It is 9:30 here, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Temps top out at about 99 degrees this afternoon. We are expecting, however, some rain in the forecast, at least over the weekend. We are. Got the full forecast coming up in a couple of moments. Hope you are prepared to get out the door to your Labor Day destination really soon. AAA expects the roads to jam up this afternoon. Here's Trevor Alt.
The worst of the traffic is going to be this afternoon and evening, but tomorrow morning it's going to be the opposite. We'll be very busy in the morning, easier later in the day. But the good news, universally for drivers, gas prices have dropped substantially from a year ago. They were $3.82 last year, now down to $3.36 a gallon.
And in fact, the Nashville average, according to Gas Buddy, is roughly $2.65 a gallon. A Nashville teacher has been arrested accused of touching a 13-year-old student inappropriately. That student told Metro Nashville Police that it happened that it happened repeatedly, at the STEM Prep Academy last year. And several other students have come forward to relate their stories as well. Teacher Michael Lagan was placed on administrative leave in April, but he was hired anyway at KIPP Academy in July. KIPP has now also fired him. Police say more charges may be forthcoming. A sad story to tell you about. A woman in a wheelchair has died after she was hit by a vehicle on Lebanon Pike in Hermitage last evening. According to Metro Police, that woman was crossing the street in the wheelchair when she was hit by the vehicle, taken to an area hospital, and that is where she died. Police are not releasing any more details. There may be some counterfeit money in circulation around the Nashville area. Putnam County Police have arrested 3 people after a money printing raid at a Quality Inn in Putnam County, where they found thousands of dollars in newly minted $20 bills and all the paraphernalia to make more. They also found dozens of stolen credit cards in that raid as well. Well, stocks this morning started off on the plus side, and they are still running higher today. The Dow Jones Industrial's up 72, the S&P 500 index is plus 31, and the NASDAQ is up 133 points. That's the latest news. We've got your weather next. Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. It's 9:32 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. Got to tell you about my friends at United Structural Systems. We talk about these guys all the time because they're good guys, hardworking guys, proud of the work they do. They live right here in Middle Tennessee, and they aren't going anywhere. United Structural Systems has been a staple in Middle Tennessee since 1994, and it's because of the job that they do. Well, what do, you ask? Anything to do with your home, from foundation repair to crawl space encapsulation, to waterproofing, even basement wall realignment, or they can fix the sinkhole on your property. Do yourself a favor, walk around your property this afternoon and look for some red flag warning signs. Are you seeing cracks in your foundation? Are you seeing slumping or sinking patio steps? That's a sign that you need to call USS today. United Structural Systems will come out, create a custom solution for you, and they won't leave until the job is done and you're satisfied. 615-488-7855. That's 615-488-7855. Online at USSTN.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, I mean, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID.
Yeah, we remember the fear porn.
The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump.
Orange man bad. Did you know that? I felt like that was going to be the talking points. Orange man bad. Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you see, Mason, can you see if you can find the overnight ratings from that interview? I'm curious how many people watched the campaign ad that was the interview on CNN. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, 937. We got a lot of audio, circular talking, word salad, and more from Kamala Harris. But one thing's for sure, orange man bad.
Of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world.
I don't know. That's what she says, but I look at it, if they came in with a priority to rescue America, the first thoughts that come to my mind are, congratulations, kid, you blew it. Because inflation went sky high, the border is wide open, we're embroiled in conflicts around the globe. If your goal was saving America, you blew it. Rudy, who's on the road, wants to talk about this Kamala Harris interview. What's up, Rudy?
Good morning, Chris. To me, I'm just amazed at how you listen to their talking points. Everything they're saying seems to be projecting onto the Trump campaign the very things that they are doing. And like when she talks about them coming back to save the economy, they double down on keeping us roped in and not being able to do work as usual.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy.
Let's be honest. They tried to.
Prices aren't going to come down anytime soon.
No, and they tried to mandate a vaccine for us, so that way we couldn't work without it. Like they saved the economy by saying you have to take an experimental gene therapy in order to be able to work. Like, I don't know. That doesn't feel like saving the economy to me.
Hey, and one more thing. At the DNC convention, you know the butcher bus they had outside?
Yes, sir.
That is a direct descendant from what the Nazis did during World War II. They had these vans that they would pull up into cities when they were going to get rid of Jews, and they would kill them by using the exhaust from the vans. So, man, that to me is just like a perfect picture of them improving upon something that an evil dictator did.
Yeah, you're
they had it right there on display. The whole convention is on display.
Yep.
Crazy.
It's disgusting, but that's what you learn to expect. And I think that when you look at their voters, you see a lot of correlation between the citizens during Nazi Germany who just stay quiet, accept the propaganda, and look the other way.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I was just following orders.
Yeah, exactly. Just following orders. Appreciate the call, Rudy. Let's go to Steven in Paris, who wants to talk about the voting ads. What's up, Steve?
Hey, Hey, Chris. Hey, I know a guy was calling in talking about watching commercials and seeing. We always see the voting advertisement this time around, and it's always, one party talking about the other, this and that. Let's do a little math real quick, all right? So the mainstream media always says that this country's split in half right now, that we're divided pretty much almost 50-50. All the polls are showing this and that, right?
Yep.
Well, let's do the math. So actually, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the last big election, actually only 66% of the people in this country actually voted. So that leaves out of 330-something million people, maybe let's just say 340 million people, 66% is a little bit over half. That leaves around 170 million to 150 to 170 million people that are not part of the voting process. So in order to get these people to get out and vote, that's what everybody's fighting for. That's what everybody's always saying. You got to go vote. You got to get your neighbor. You got to get your friends. The people that don't vote, that don't realize. So to just show those numbers alone, to try to wake more people up and help them realize, if we can just get a small chunk of that 150 million American citizens to realize and to get out and vote, I think we can blow the Democratic strongholds in these battleground states. I don't even think it would matter. The polls wouldn't matter. Any of that stuff wouldn't matter. We just got to get better advertisements out there to help people realize how important this is, because even if they want to continue down the road the next 4 years and just sit on their butts and watch TV and do what they do without caring to vote or not, they'll lose that right, because we'll be in a third world war where we may have to have our own call to arms just to defend ourselves, and that's how.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to get to that yet. But to your point on voting ads, we're not seeing a lot of them here in Tennessee because they're not focusing the money here in Tennessee. When I travel out of state and I go a lot of, I've been to Florida and Arizona and Michigan, and the past few months, you see a lot more of these ads because it's battleground states. So I think that it's a little bit of echo chamber being here in Tennessee. Like, we just don't see it, so we assume it's not being spent. But I assure you, the ads are rolling for Republicans. And I appreciate the call, Steve. As always, you're one of the good ones. Trump has a ton of ads running. This is one of his new ones.
We should be doing everything we can to make it more affordable to buy a home.
A just-released housing index reveals just how rough the market is, especially for first-time home buyers. It showed home prices for the nation's top 20 metro areas rose 5.4% from June of last year to June of this year, a record jump for that month.
The average home buyer needs to make over $110,000 to afford the average home. Home buyers only needed to make $76,000 back in 2020.
Mortgage rates are now at their highest level in 21 years.
86% of U.S. renters would like to buy, but they can't. That really speaks to a lot of pessimism here about the American dream, how it feels like it's out of reach. Home ownership remains the ticket to wealth generation. So this is just widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots.
She stands there and says on day one, she's going to tackle the housing affordability crisis in our country.
But day one for Kamala was 3.5 years ago.
What the hell have you been doing for all that time?
And then the ad ends with Kamala Harris is weak, failed, and dangerously liberal. I mean, the ads are running. The ads are out there. We're just not seeing them here in Middle Tennessee. But, I mean, the ad lays out everything that's truthful about the economy. She blames Trump for the economy, but she also agrees prices are too high. But she says, don't worry, because, communism.
But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it, which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging.
Again, you're in office now. You're in office now. You're giving us these crazy, lousy talking points about price gouging and price controls. And then behind the scenes, the people in her campaign are telling big dollar donors, don't worry about these things. Price controls will never get through Congress. It'll never happen. But then she goes on TV and she's like, oh, we got to stop that. We have to. Okay. It's just a joke.
What we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families.
Remember when they ripped J.D. Vance for saying that they should expand the child tax credit?
Be able to take care of their children in their most formative years.
Now they love children, right? Didn't Steve, our last caller, bring up the abortion van that they have outside the DNC? But no. They're pro-family now. Did you know that?
What we need to do to bring down the cost of housing.
The cost of housing, which has exploded under Kamala Harris. You heard in that ad that we played from Donald Trump and his team. $76K to add an average house is what you needed to make. You need to make $76,000 to buy an average house in 2020. It's exploded under Kamala Harris.
My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers.
And in unrelated news, housing prices will jump $25,000 at least. Where are you getting that money from? She doesn't say. She She's trying to sell the American people on sunshine and rainbows.
So they can just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path to achieving that goal and that dream.
Oh, yeah, you got to be able to achieve the American dream, something that was achievable in 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017. You notice a pattern? The American dream has been beaten to a bloody pulp under Biden and Harris. The American dream, I don't think, can survive another 4 years under these radical liberal policies. But, that's Kamala Harris. That's Kamala Harris. This is the first big interview that we've gotten with her since becoming the Democrat nominee. She still doesn't have any substance. She's still just pushing talking points. Although Dana Bash did call her out on some of her flip-flops, including her flip-flop on fracking.
When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020.
She literally campaigned on banning fracking in 2019 and 2020. Quite literally.
That I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
In 2019, I believe, at a town hall, you said you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes.
Everybody has the receipts. Kudos to Dana Bash. I mean, she did call her on it. She did.
So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
I kept my word, and I will keep my word. You said one thing in 2019. You said another thing in 2020, and we just have to say, okay, she's going to keep her word, but not the old word, the new word. What?
I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
Okay. So it's like she had an opportunity to explain this. She had an opportunity to go more in depth, and she didn't. She talked her way around it. And then Dana Bash says, okay, but like what made you change your mind on a fracking ban? Because like your opinions evolved, right? Like you've gotten some sort of new information, right?
What made you change that position at the time?
Well, let's be clear. My values have not changed.
Ah, there it is. There it is. Radically, dangerously liberal, and she admits as much.
Let's be clear. My values have not changed.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it is very important that we take seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate.
Is she being clear enough? So she doesn't want to ban fracking, but her values haven't changed, and we have to guard against the climate crisis.
And to do that, we can do what we have accomplished thus far.
And to do that, we can do what we have accomplished thus far. Have they accomplished anything?
The Inflation Reduction Act, what we have done to invest, by my calculation, over probably $1 trillion over the next 10 years, investing in a clean energy economy. What we've already done, creating over 300,000 new clean energy jobs.
Okay, so the Inflation Reduction Act, the American Rescue Plan, all this infrastructure money, we've invested all of this for a green new economy. Okay, didn't they spend like $7 billion to put up 7 electric vehicle charging stations? Are these the successes that she's trying to sell us on? We can be successful by doing what we have done to be successful. Okay.
That tells me, from my experience as vice president, we can do it without banning fracking.
Well, okay. Do you believe her? I don't know. I'm having a hard time myself. And Dana Bash, again, tosses up a softball because she knows how bad Kamala Harris sounds. CNN wants to cover for Kamala Harris. They do not want Donald Trump in the White House. And she says, but all right, was there a policy or new data that you looked at that made you change your mind? Please give us something to be able to explain the flip-flop.
Was there some policy or scientific data that you saw that you said, oh, okay, I get it now?
What I have seen is that we can grow and we can increase a thriving clean energy economy without banning fracking. Okay.
So the quick answer is, have you seen any new data or science that's changed your mind? She said, no. The only new data I've seen, Dana, is polling data. It's 9:52 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I started work in the early 60s, and Tennessee had a deer stalking program already in place going, primarily from Clarksville Base within the Fort Campbell area. From that area, a lot of deer were stalked in Middle and West Tennessee, and then later on, we started taking deer from those areas and stalking other areas. So it was a progression. It moved pretty fast. The deer sometimes were faster than the stalkers were.
I bet that was pretty exciting trying to trap those deer and move them and know that you're making a huge impact.
Well, we wasn't all that confident.
Oh, really?
Because a lot of the counties had dog problems. You know, they'd be wanting to dog the deer, and it didn't hold up under that kind of pressure. And we had to go back in and restock. And there was a lot of different types of law enforcement work that had to be done.
I hear you.
And the officers did a good job. And we talked to a lot of the judges, and they clamped down pretty hard on somebody poaching deer out there. Back then, we only put out 15 or 20 deer. It was critical. In fact, at that time, it could cost you your truck.
Yeah. It's an amazing success story. You hear folks saying, well, we didn't see a deer when I was a kid, and now you just have to walk out your back door and you got in a subdivision grazing or driving down the interstate highways or whatever, you see a deer just about every day.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if we're too efficient.
Some folks say back in the good old days, but I don't know. Right now, hunting and fishing is really good.
Up ahead here on 99.7 WTN, there's just one Tennessee county in extreme drought conditions right now. We'll tell you which one. And police make an arrest in a case of a couple who has disappeared from a nudist colony. Those stories coming up at 10 a.m. on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan Jones. It's 9:56 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. I love you guys on the Super Text line. You always crowdsource the fact checking. So Tim said it was 8 charging stations, not 7.
Not 7. Ooh, they can't forget about that last one.
No. I mean, it changes the whole dynamic. So they invested $7.5 billion for 8 charging stations, which actually it turns it into a bargain because it's only $937,500,000 per charging station.
Holy cow!
Don't forget to send him a thank you note. It's 9:56 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name's Chris Hand. We're trudging through this Kamala Harris interview. The first interview.
Yeah, the first.
The first. Did you find overnight ratings on it yet?
I didn't. I can't find. Everything is talking about fact checking Kamala Harris on her interview.
The cope and seethe is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
Donald Trump responded with one word on Truth Social. Boring. Her body language was off all night. She looked shriveled up in her seat. She looked puffy. She looked tired. She looked like she's been doing a little bit too much schmoozing and boozing with those big, powerful donors. But that's what you got to do, right? She's not for the people. She's bought and paid for. Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, everybody. She was asked about the southern border after she couldn't explain why she changed her mind on fracking. They changed the subject to another area of her expertise, or lack thereof. And the question was posed about the southern border and how bad it's been. And she's been border czar, so what's the latest on the border?
Another issue, big one, is immigration. As Vice President, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern countries and
northern part of Central America.
The northern part of Central America that affects the southern border of the U.S. During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
Let me handle that one, Dana. I'll take it from here. New voters, more new voters, Dana.
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region.
So she's asked about the border, and I don't know if you caught that, but her pivot is to say that it's actually working because we've sent American jobs over to that region. Am I hearing that correctly?
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region.
Oh, actually, the work was so successful that we shipped out American jobs. It's the import-export business, Dana. I know that it's going to be tough for you to wrap your mind around this, but what we do is we import their citizens and then we export our jobs, and that creates a net positive. Okay, I'm sold. Am I with her now? Is that? Do you feel what I feel? The hope and the joy? Believe it or not, it gets worse. Oh, it gets worse. More on Kamala Harris and the border after the news with Joan Jones on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, 10 o'clock now, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Boy, is it going to be hot again today. But we do have some rain headed our way, perhaps over the weekend. The forecast is coming up. Rain certainly would be a help to green up our grass around here again. But for some in the listening area, it would also help them to get out of a drought. The U.S. Drought Monitor shows that the only Tennessee county actually 100% in the extreme drought category is Lewis County. Lewis County Mayor Jonathan Keltner told News 2 that farmers were impacted with extremely dry pastures, crops drying up, and having difficulty getting their livestock adequate water. Keltner also added that the drought was affecting the wallets of several commercial landscaping businesses because they haven't had to mow grass in weeks. Former President Donald Trump campaigning in Potterville, Michigan last night, talking about the economy and blaming Vice President Harris for her role in it.
She wants to talk about the future, but she's been there for 3.5 years. She only wants to talk about the future because the past has been the job they've done. Let me tell you, he's the worst president in the history of our country, and she's the worst vice president.
Now to police in California, where they have been searching for a missing elderly couple for 2 days. We're learning now that there has been an arrest. That couple went missing from a nudist ranch where they had lived in Southern California. Friends say there's no way that they left on their own because she walks with a cane and he has dementia. Allison Kosick has more.
Stephanie Maynard and her husband Dan, along with their dog Cuddles, were last seen Saturday. Their vehicle was found unlocked down the road from their home the following day.
Her purse, their cell phones, things they would have never left, at home.
Friends say the Maynards are part of a lawsuit against the ranch and claim the couple was being harassed.
And police say there may be more arrests to come. There may be some counterfeit money in circulation around the Nashville area. Putnam County Police arresting 3 people after a money printing raid at a Quality Inn where they found thousands of dollars in newly minted $20 bills and paraphernalia to make more. They also found dozens of stolen credit cards. And regulators are sounding the alarm bells about a magnetic children's game, saying children are at risk of swallowing the pieces. Here's Chuck Sievertson.
Magnetic chess games sold by a China-based seller, Jomo, contain magnets that do not comply with U.S. federal safety regulations. That from the Consumer Product Safety Commission. It says children could swallow the loose magnets, causing injury or death. It issued a warning, but the company hasn't agreed to a recall, says the commission, which urges people to stop using the game and throw it away immediately.
That is the latest news. Weather's coming up. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
10:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. We're talking about the struggle bus of an interview that was Kamala Harris, the first interview. It was the first since she became Democrat nominee. If you're just joining us, you haven't missed much. We played some of these clips, but she says a whole lot without saying nothing at all. Classic. At least she's consistent, right? But the interview wasn't anything to write home about. I'll tell you what. Kamala was slouched in a seat in what looked like a dark, empty Denny's, sitting in the middle of a table where Dana Bash and Tim Walz appear to be towering over her. Her body language looked awkward at best, insecure at worst. Her face was had exhaustion written all over it. And that's the nicest way I can put it. The real thing I thought when I first saw her was, wow, she looks like she's been drinking too much. And I don't honestly mean that as a knock. And anybody that's dealt with alcohol problems, like, you understand how serious it is. I hope she gets some help. I don't want somebody in the White House that's drinking all the time. And it looks like she's drinking all the time. Seriously. Just the bags, the puffiness. That's what it looked like to me. I'm not an expert in the field by any means, but I have known an alcoholic or two. So that's what I thought. So this is her first interview in 40 days as the Democrat nominee. She goes 18 minutes long. 18 minutes. It was edited. They're not giving out a transcript. And she had her chaperone there, Tim Walz. Now, to put it into perspective, Trump's last 4 major interviews, he did 57 minutes with Dr. Phil. That got 1.7 million views. He did 57 minutes with Theo Vaughn. That got 12 million views. He did 2 hours and 3 minutes with Elon Musk. That got 27 million views and threats from the EU to shut down Twitter. 72% of those listeners were under 34. He did an interview with Sean Ryan. Great podcast. Sean Ryan, his interview with him was 1 hour and 11 minutes long. 2.5 million views. We're scraping around the underbelly of the internet trying to find what the overnight ratings are for the Kamala Harris interview. I don't know if she's gonna tickle a million. What do you think? Do you think she's gonna hit that mark? What's the average? Maybe you can look that up for me. What's the average CNN ratings for 8 o'clock prime time?
Yeah, I'll look that up for you.
Look,
I just hate the fact that you said that Kamala tickling millions is not a phrase I like to hear.
Yeah. It's a part of the Joy strategy.
It's the Joy Initiative. Sure.
It's part of Hope and Joy. So they talked about the border. She tried to deflect in one of the strangest ways. She said, we have worked on the root causes of immigration, and one of the things that my work has done is it's sent jobs out of the country.
Another issue, big one, is immigration. As Vice President, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern countries and
northern part of Central America.
The northern part of Central America that affects the southern border of the U.S. During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
Well, I'll take that one. They spent the first 3.5 years to tell us the border was secure and brag about tearing down all the Trump-era policies. And then when they saw their internal poll numbers that the border was one of the major issues for the American people, they decided to flip-flop and figure out how to blame Trump. But let's hear Kamala's answer.
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region.
Oh, actually, we've invested trillions, and American businesses have left our country to go to that region. There's a lot of benefits to that. Benefits to who? She did not say. Conveniently enough. She did not say, and then she turned her attention to Donald Trump because, it was Orange Man who actually killed the border deal that was going to allow 5,000 illegal aliens in per day. That was the Orange Man. So it's actually, believe it or not, it's actually Donald Trump's fault.
I will say this, that Joe Biden and I and our administration worked with members of the United States Congress on an immigration issue that is very significant to the American people and to our security, which is the border. And through bipartisan work, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, a bill was crafted, which we supported, which I support. And Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border. And because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress, don't put it forward. He killed the bill.
It's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault. This bipartisan border bill was killed. It's, he should have just let 5,000 illegal aliens in a day. But the bipartisan nature of it that she really hangs her hat on is it's a lie. And let's journey back to earlier this year in January, if you will. The Immigration Accountability Project had been leaking details of this bill to the American public, noting, quite frankly, that it increased legal immigration levels while expediting work permits for migrants released in the United States, and most infamously, permitting tens of thousands of migrants to cross the border every week before DHS could use any type of border controls. They had a much higher threshold before they could shut it down. And yeah, Trump read that and said, no, it's not a good look. Not a good look. But before he said that, House and Senate Republicans were already opposing the bill. Like, as soon as details leaked, House and Senate Republicans were like, yeah, this is trash, hot trash, dumpster fire of a bill. The border's ruined because you took away all of the Trump-era policies that worked, and you took it away via executive action, so put it back in and enforce the laws on the books. And it's also important to point out that there were House and Senate Democrats that opposed the bill as well. It's bipartisan opposition, actually. Most prominently, we had Elizabeth Warren out of Massachusetts, Ed Markey out of Massachusetts, Alex Padilla out of California, Bob Menendez, Gold Bar Bob out of New Jersey. They opposed the bill, along with Senators Cory Booker, LaFonza Butler, Bernie Sanders, Kyrsten Sinema. They opposed. It was bipartisan opposition. Bipartisan opposition. It's crazy. Cory Booker literally said, I will not vote for the bill coming to the Senate floor this week because it includes several provisions that will violate Americans' shared values. These provisions would not make us safe. See, they didn't like the lack of mass amnesty in the bill. But there was bipartisan opposition, not bipartisan support. Of course, we're dealing with Kamala Harris, so we're not dealing with things in fact, right? So it's Trump's fault that bill died. Dana Bash wanted to know, would you push that bill again?
So you would push that legislation again? I just want to ask
about...
Not only
push it, I will make sure that it comes to my desk and I would sign it.
Yeah, we need more newcomers, says Kamala Harris. More newcomers. That's what we need. Do you think that's what we need? It's a crazy, crazy time to be a Kamala Harris supporter. How do you defend this? And you look at this border under Kamala Harris. I mean, think about what's happening in Aurora, Colorado. It's become main news after Dan had a great interview with a woman by the name of Danielle Jurinsky is her name. Danielle is on the Aurora City Council, and you have Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado because of this wide open border from Biden-Harris. But it's Trump's fault, right? It has nothing to do with the Biden-Harris regime dismantling Trump-era policies via executive order. It has nothing to do with the Biden-Harris regime suing Arizona to take down their impromptu shipping container wall. It has nothing to do with the Biden-Harris administration suing Texas to remove the buoys from the Rio Grande or the razor wire in Eagle Pass. It has nothing to do with them suing states who made it a state-level crime to cross the border illegally. It has nothing to do with that stuff. It has to do with Donald Trump's opposition to a bipartisan border bill. Unbelievable. And I'm sure you've seen the video now. Groups of armed men accused of breaking into this apartment unit, Venezuelan gang members just running around with all sorts of firearms. This alleged incident happened earlier in August, shortly before a shooting that left one person severely injured at that complex, The Edge at Lowry. The New York Post reported this on Thursday. If you haven't heard Dan Mandis' interview with Danielle Jurinsky of the Aurora City Council, you got to check it out on our podcast page. She's been actually doing interviews everywhere about this because she's raising the alarm of the realities of Kamala Harris being in charge of our border.
Well, what's going on here, Kaylee, is exactly what it looks like. This gang has taken over several complexes in Aurora. Our mayor, Mike Kaufman, was on a program earlier on Fox this afternoon, and he said definitively 3 properties have been taken over by this gang. I do believe it's actually more than that, but this is what they're doing. They are patrolling these complexes with guns. They go in, they beat up the staff, they hold guns to their heads, staff flees. And as far as local law enforcement, I believe at this point that this is far beyond any one local law enforcement agency taking this on. And we need our state and federal partners to step in at this point.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't count on the federal partners and the state partners in the Colorado area. I don't know if they're going to help much. You know, Denver is a massive sanctuary city. The mayor famously cut resources to the police department to pay for the migrants. So, I don't know. Also, I just want to point out the cope and seethe from the left is on full display on the super text line as well. Got a text from 4559, and they said, "Be better, Chris. Seriously." Thanks for listening. That's all I get. They don't attack any of the points. They don't have anything to say about the border. Be better, Chris. Be better. I wish Kamala Harris was better on the border. You know, the Biden-Harris regime is actually going to be resuming the parole pipeline for migrants. Oh, the migrants, the newcomers. We're going to be bringing them back in. If you remember, they had to previously shutter the program due to warnings of widespread fraud. Earlier this month, Alejandro Mayorkas temporarily shut down the parole pipeline program over reports of fraud and abuse. The program serves as one of 2 pipelines that Biden-Harris have created, giving advanced travel authorization to Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, Venezuelans, so they can fly to the U.S. and secure parole. Venezuelans, where have I heard that? Oh, yeah, that's right. Tren de Aragua. They're taking over apartment complexes in Colorado. That's right. That's where I heard that one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Also, the parole pipeline has been actually a massive success for criminal illegal aliens. The migrant that was accused of the Coney Island rape in Brooklyn, it's in like broad daylight at Coney Island, a famous boardwalk. He's accused of knocking a woman down and raping her under the boardwalk. He was released into America via Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's parole pipeline. The same parole pipeline that they're reopening to bring in more people from these countries that won't be vetted correctly. More people that will be in these apartment complexes either being terrorized by the illegal alien gangs or doing the terrorizing. It's a huge joke. But yeah, Danielle Devon Bonilla, a 24-year-old migrant from Nicaragua, first crossed the United States-Mexico border near Eagle Pass on December 7th, 2022. He was taken into custody. Agents with Customs and Border Protection released him into the U.S. with parole without a notice to appear, claiming there was not enough detention space to hold him at the time. We hear this story so often. There's not enough detention space. We don't have the beds. We see this constantly. And he went on to rape a woman under a famous boardwalk in New York City. And he was freed into the U.S. via that parole pipeline. They can focus on Orange Man Bad, and they can focus on the bipartisan border bill that Donald Trump shut down, and thank God he did. It would have been shut down anyway, but they really hyper-focus on that. And at the same time, behind your back, they're bringing in more and more and more. It's like, don't watch what they're saying. Watch what they're doing. It's 1022 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. It is time for you to get a firearm and do some training. And if you're going to do training, you got to train where I train, at the Glock store. You can get your firearm there as well. The Glock store is the place to shop for Glocks. Every Glock is in stock. And when you get the firearm you want, how you want it, you got to train. Don't train at a lane range. Train in a private shooting room with a private instructor. That's all they have at the Glock store, and it's the only way to train. I've learned more in my sessions at the Glock store than I've learned at my lane range sessions combined. And I have it set up for a monthly recurring session, and I think I got to do more than that. Maybe I need to go up to 2. You know, you look left, you look right, you realize that your personal safety, your personal defense is going to be your responsibility, so you should train. And you should train at the Glock store. Call my friends at the Glock store. They're also starting a new thing where you can have a retirement party, a birthday party, and more at the Glock store. And to get that party started, you just call them, 615-682-6565. It's the Glock store. Everyone's place to party, minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Thank you, Joan Jones. It's 1025 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. We've been talking about the interview. The interview. Everybody's excited about the interview.
Wait, that movie with Seth Rogen and James Franco?
That's actually pretty good.
It is pretty funny.
I like that movie. No, I was talking about Kamala Harris, Tim Walz.
I mean, still kind of. It's funny, but in a bad way, unfortunately.
Yep. Tim Walz was asked one question yesterday. One. That was all. That's all he got. That's all he got. It's making the rounds online. Walz asked about his lies, in particular, stolen valor.
Governor Walz, the country is just starting to get to know you. I want to ask you a question about how you've described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do.
Okay, you speak like we do. Yeah, we get it. We get the vibe as Midwestern folksy guy. But the lies, sir. The lies. Can we talk about the lies? Also, it's important to note that she only asked him about that one quote where he said, carried weapons in war like the weapons I carried in war. Not the years of saying he was a command sergeant major, even though he had been demoted before retiring. He wasn't asked about running away from a war zone. That wasn't the topic. It's lies by omission. They make it seem like it was just that one thing.
I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools.
Oh, yeah. Actually, guys, it's about the children.
And around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war. Yeah. Did you misspeak as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar's not always correct.
Well, my grammar's not always correct, he says. It's just a grammar thing. Has nothing to do with the message. Well, what about all those years of people referring to you as a command sergeant major? What about your challenge coin? What about the people in your unit speaking out against you? The chaplain speaking out against you?
But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that. And the one thing I'll never do is I'll never demean another member's service in any way. I never have, and I never will.
Oh, okay. All right. That's nice. That's nice. If it's not about this, guys, they're going to make fun of my kids for showing emotion. I'll be fair with you. Nobody on this station made fun of his kids. I didn't. I mean, I saw the memes, but it was actually few and far between. Few and far between. We did make fun of the dog thing because that was hilarious. Full disclosure. But we didn't mess with the kids. That's the left. The left does that. The left goes after Barron Trump nonstop. That's the left. Bobby, what did you think about Tim Walz?
Hello.
Hey, Bobby, what did you think about Tim Walz?
Was he there?
Seriously. Yeah, I think a lot of the editing they did was probably Tim Walz saving Kamala Harris from herself.
Well, I think that was probably a good thing. But the thing that amazed me was I got into this world of politics during the high days of the feminist movement. And I remember the T-shirts that a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. And I just wonder how the feminists felt about her taking him into this, that she couldn't stand up for herself or present herself in such a way that she would be active to the voters that she was trying to influence. And then you talking about the way she was sitting in the chair and the way she looked slumped over. Phyllis Schlafly, who was the founder of Eagle Forum nationally, one of the things that she taught us was you sit up straight. And in fact, in everything that she ever did, her back never touched the back of the chair. And she always looked nice, and she always had a smile on her face. So Harris has some things to learn if she's going to present herself well. But this whole thing was just, it was a head shaker. You'd hear some of it and you just shake your head and said, I don't believe this. I don't believe this.
Yeah.
But there we are.
You're absolutely right, Bobby, and I appreciate the call. Bobby nailed it. We'll have more from the Kamala Harris CNN interview on the way. It's 10:31 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Are you or your loved ones suffering from illnesses such as TDS, also known as Trump derangement syndrome? Do you dismiss or deny the current issues facing our country, such as historic inflation, illegal immigration? Successfully identifying propaganda, freedom of choice, loss of hatred, anti-narcissistic behavior, and love of democracy.
I used to blindly hate whoever my party was running against. I didn't care about facts or policy because I was hopelessly indoctrinated. With independence, I'm much more interested in policies that uphold democracy, and I truly care about the health of our country and its citizens.
Ask your doctor if independence is right for you, and enjoy your freedoms once again.
10:39 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Thanks to our new sponsor, Independence. Consult your doctor, see if it's right for you. That's actually Nicole Shanahan, RFK Jr.'s VP running mate, posted that on Twitter. It's one of my favorites.
That was great.
It's a little long, but it's worth it.
You gave me a little tease about it before coming back on the air, and I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yep.
And it's perfect. It's perfect.
Follow me off the air. My name is Chris Hand. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, True Social, at Chris Hand on air. And we want to see you on September 10th. We're going to have an awesome party. Awesome party. Debate watch party. Scoreboard, Cedar Creek, Mount Juliet. You got to come out. If you've never watched a debate with a live crowd that's been drinking all afternoon, it is fun. It is so much fun. The last one we did was historic, to say the least. It was the end of Joe Biden, but we had a banger of a night. We're going to have another one. September 10th, Scoreboard, Cedar Creek. We want you there. I've been talking about this interview. The interview that we've been waiting for so long. We needed this interview. And there were some questions that Dana Bash asked that people wanted to know. To her credit, she did ask some questions. Not the best. She wasn't the best. She didn't follow up too much. She held her feet to the fire on a couple things. Not as much as you or I would like, though. I don't know if we were ever going to reach that bar with a pre-recorded 18-minute-long CNN interview that also had a chaperone. I don't think we were going to hit that. But we got some questions. We got some questions. She was asked about Joe Biden's cognitive decline, and she said, "I didn't notice anything." Okay, that's a hot take. You didn't notice anything about Biden's cognitive decline. Nope, nothing. He's a sharp guy. That's what she said. He's been pretty good. Been pretty good. Saved the economy. Okay. I mean, if that's what you want to go with, that's what you want to go with. I thought it was embarrassing. We all understand that Kamala Harris got rid of Joe Biden via a coup. But we all understand that. Everyone understands that. It's because of that debate performance. I do feel like Kamala Harris is going to have just as terrible of a debate performance as Joe Biden. Yet she's not going to have the excuse of dementia.
You were a very staunch defender of President Biden's capacity to serve another 4 years. Right after the debate, you insisted that President Biden is extraordinarily strong. Given where we are now, do you have any regrets about what you told the American people?
No, not at all. Not at all. I have
no regrets. No regrets at all.
Served with President Biden for almost 4 years now, and I'll tell you, it's one of the greatest honors of my career, truly. He cares so deeply about the American people. He is so smart and loyal to the American people. And I have spent hours upon hours with him, be it in the Oval Office or the Situation Room. He has the intelligence, the commitment, and the judgment and disposition that I think the American people rightly deserve in their president.
So why is he not running then? Oh, the cognitive decline, right? yeah. That's why. That's why. But she said, listen, when Joe called her to drop out, her first thought wasn't about herself. Her first thought was about Joe.
My first thought was not about me, to be honest with you. My first thought was about him.
Yeah. She was worried about a friend. She didn't force him out. She was caring and concerned. And they had a thoughtful conversation. The last thing on her mind was usurping power without one vote from the American population, right? That was so far in the background. That was noise at that point, The caring, gentle, tender side of Kamala Harris came out. Maybe we do need joy.
My first thought was not about me, to be honest with you. My first thought was about him.
She went full Mamala on in that situation. What a joke. Do we think that they even had a phone call? Like, I don't know. We know about the Obama phone call because they recorded it for a cringeworthy ad, but I don't know. Oh, I was thinking about Joe. And then she actually doubles down again. She makes the point. Biden is so good, and Trump is so bad.
He has the intelligence, the commitment, and the judgment and disposition that I think the American people rightly deserve in their president. By contrast, the former president has none of that.
Oh.
And so, one, I am so proud to have served as vice president to Joe Biden. And two, I am so proud to be running with Tim Walz for president of the United States and to bring America what I believe the American people deserve, which is a new way forward, and turn the page on the last decade of what I believe has been contrary to where the spirit of our country really lies.
The last decade. Trump is responsible for the last decade of terrible things in this country. He was only president for 40% of the last decade, but, facts are pesky things, right? We're going to turn the page and we're going to move forward. But, they're pushing this. We're not going back. We're not going back. If Kamala Harris is elected, we aren't going back. Gas prices up 50% since Kamala Harris took office. Prices have risen 50% at the gas pump since she's been in the White House. Home prices through the roof, year over year. An incredible leap. Your insurance costs way up. Your energy costs way up. Groceries. I don't even have to say anything. I just say groceries. You know exactly what I'm talking about. We're not going back. Not if she's elected. I shudder to think. We're not going back. We're not going back. This is the hope and joy that they're selling us. And then she continues with a fresh word salad for Dana Bash. And Dana quickly reminds her that she's been in office for 3.5 years.
The last decade, of course, the last 3.5 years has been part of your administration.
Yeah.
I'm talking about an era that started about a decade ago, where there is some suggestion, warped, I believe it to be, that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, instead of where I believe most Americans are, which is to believe that the true measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up.
Okay, you want to play the game? Let's play the game. So the last decade, who's been beaten down? The American people, except for the 4 years where Trump was in office. The 4 years where Trump was in office, American people were lifted up, actually. Lowest African-American poverty rate, lowest Latino-American poverty rate. We had jobs booming, industry coming back. No new wars. Who was Donald Trump lifting up? Who have they been beating down since then? Well, since Biden Harris took over, it's been the American people. Gas prices up, house prices up, inflation, war all over the world. We got World War III on deck, it looks like. And who else have they been beating down? Oh, well, that'd be Donald J. Trump. Through lawfare and lies and hoaxes. They spied on him on the way into the White House. They impeached him on the way out for perfectly fine phone calls. They accuse him of being an insurrectionist. They go after him via lawfare continuously. So, yeah, that's a game we could play.
That's what's at stake as much as any other detail that we could discuss in this election.
Yeah, well, we discussed it, and it's been discussed. The lawfare that they've waged against Trump is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oh, measure a leader by who they've beaten down and who they've lifted up. Well, I don't know if Biden Harris has lifted up anybody. I know Donald Trump has, but I can absolutely tell you Biden and Harris have beaten people down. Oh, no, actually, Biden Harris has lifted up a few million people. None of them are American citizens, but they've been lifted up nonetheless. And to where the point of them beating down Donald J. Trump, we still got court cases going into the presidential election. We got less than 70 days to go, and there are still 3 major court cases against Donald Trump that are in various stages, with an additional one dismissed that prosecutors are attempting to revive. The case closest to its conclusion is the one out of Manhattan, in which Trump was found guilty in May of 34 counts of falsifying business records. He's going to be sentenced for that one on September 18th, 8 days after the debate. The sentencing date was supposed to take place in July, but it was removed at the request of the Trump team after the Supreme Court's presidential immunity decision. So they've requested that the September sentencing date be delayed until after the election. The other case in play is the January 6th one brought forth by Hack Smith, Biden administration special counsel. That's unlikely to go to trial before election, but the lawfare continues. And we saw that this week. On Tuesday, Smith filed a superseding indictment against Trump, charging him with the same 4 counts, though written a bit different, and some new co-conspirators. But that one actually encourages me. It's like they got nothing else. So they're going back to the well of lawfare. And it helps Trump's poll numbers every time. Every time. One case has been dismissed, the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, though Smith is attempting to revive it. And one case is in limbo, the Georgia 2020 election case brought forth by Fani Willis. That's been put on hold pending a hearing in front of the Georgia Court of Appeals set for December 5th. So when she says measure a leader not by who they've beaten down, but by who they've raised up, it's like, okay, yeah, you guys have beaten down Trump and the American citizens and lifted up illegal aliens and enriched yourselves. Yeah, many such cases. Many such cases. There's a couple more clips I want to play from this Kamala Harris interview, and then I want to get to the real news. Donald Trump, he's traveling all over the place. There's actually competing rallies yesterday. Kamala Harris was in Savannah, Georgia. First time a Democrat presidential candidate had been there since Bill Clinton campaigning, which is kind of crazy. Trump was in Michigan. I'll play you the tail end of the Kamala Harris interview. Plus, we'll get into these rallies in Savannah and in Michigan. And there's something so crazy about the Kamala Harris Savannah rally. Not a lot of people there were from Savannah. I'll tell you how I found that out after the break. It's 10:52 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I started work in the early 60s, and Tennessee had a deer stalking program already in place going, primarily from Clarksville base within the Fort Campbell area. From that area, a lot of deer were stalked in middle and west Tennessee, and then later on, we started taking deer from those areas and stalking other areas. So it was a progression. It moved pretty fast. The deer sometimes were faster than the stalkers were.
I bet that was pretty exciting trying to trap those deer and move them and know that you're making a huge impact.
Well, we wasn't all that confident.
Oh, really?
Because a lot of the counties had dog problems. You know, they'd be wanting to dog the deer, and it didn't hold up under that kind of pressure. And we had to go back in and restock. And there was a lot of different types of law enforcement work that had to be done.
I hear you.
And the officers did a good job. And we talked to a lot of the judges, and they clamped down pretty hard on somebody poaching deer out there. Back then, we only put out 15 or 20 deer. It was critical. In fact, at that time, it could cost you your truck.
Yeah. It's an amazing success story. You hear folks saying, well, we didn't see a deer when I was a kid, and now you just have to walk out your back door and you got in a subdivision grazing or driving down the interstate highways or whatever, you see a deer just about every day.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if we're too efficient.
Some folks say back in the good old days, but I don't know. Right now, hunting and fishing is really good.
All right, got a couple of traffic issues need to tell you about. First off, a crash is blocking the off-ramp 40 westbound to Demonbreun here on the South Loop downtown. And then 65 southbound at the 24 North exit 88 got the left shoulder blocked by a crash. Got another major victory claimed by Israel against Hamas coming up at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver, and welcome back to the show, sir.
Glad to be back, Brother Chris.
10:56 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You like this instrumental, right, Ken?
Yes, sir.
It's a banger.
Yes,
it's a good one.
I'm a big fan of DJ Premier. His beats are solid. All right, we were talking about Kamala Harris. I know, not much to say.
No.
It's a lot of it's been said.
Can we just listen to the music?
That brings me more hope and joy. I'll tell you what.
It's a long bed. I'll let it run.
Yeah, let it ride. Let it ride. All right, so Dana Bash reminded Kamala Harris she's been in office for 3.5 years. Kamala wasn't too thrilled with that. She said, well, I'm talking about an era. It's been an era of Trump, 10 years, which is crazy.
Does that mean she worked with Trump?
They're looping in the tail end of the Obama administration is now Trump's fault. and the 3.5 years of Biden Harris is Trump's fault.
It's a little bit of a reach.
It is. But one of the things that I really picked up on was she was asked about another flip-flop. You know, if you remember, Kamala Harris didn't think illegal border crossing should be criminalized not too long ago. Nowadays, she's all law and order, build the wall, Kamala, if you will. And she said, no, I'm not flip-flopping. I always felt this way.
You raised your hand when asked whether or not the border should be decriminalized. Do you still believe that?
I believe there should be consequence. We have laws that have to be followed and enforced that address and deal with people who cross our border illegally, and there should be consequence. And let's be clear, in this race, I'm the only person who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations.
What a flex. In this race, I'm the only one who prosecuted transnational organizations. She forgets that she's still the vice president, and there are quite literal Venezuelan street gangs taking over entire apartment complexes inside the United States. They let everybody take over everything inside the United States under Biden Harris. She's so tough. She's so tough on the border that gangs can come in unvetted and take over apartment complexes. She's so tough on the border that Chinese illegal aliens can come in unvetted over the southern border and, I don't know, do things like start makeshift police stations and monitor their own citizens. She's so tough on the border. She's actually the only one that's tough on the border. Kamala.
Who traffic in guns, drugs, and human beings. I'm the only person in this race who actually served a border state as Attorney General to enforce our laws, and I would enforce our laws as president going forward. I recognize the problem.
Yeah, well, the problem's all yours. The problem is one that you started. And then Kamala, she did another thing. She stole one of Trump's new ideas. This time, this one blew my mind. She actually stole the team of rivals ideas. You know, Trump is bringing in Tulsi. Trump is bringing in RFK. So Kamala was asked, would you bring in a Republican?
Will you appoint a Republican to your cabinet?
Yes, I would.
Oh.
Anyone
yes,
in mind?
I would. No one in particular in mind. We got 68 days to go with this election, so I'm not putting the cart before the horse, but I would. I think it's really important. I have spent my career inviting diversity of opinion. I think it's important to have people at the table when some of the most important decisions are being made that have different views, different experiences. And I think it would be to the benefit of the American public to have a member of my cabinet who was a Republican.
Oh, what a weird flex. So Trump brings in Democrats, and now Kamala will bring in Republicans. Of course, it's we're not talking Tim Burchett, right? Like, we're talking Liz Cheney. Right? Like, we're not talking Matt Gaetz. We're talking Adam Kinzinger.
Yeah.
Yeah. She can't come up with any original ideas. That's Kamala Harris for you. That was the interview we waited 40 days for. Unbelievable. She also had a rally yesterday in Savannah. We'll get into that. Plus, Donald Trump was on point and on message in Michigan yesterday. We'll bring you that as well. It's 11:01 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and burn bans in effect in several parts of Middle Tennessee until we get some significant rain. That means no burning of leaves or brush, construction debris, fields, campfires, or burn barrels. Recreational burning and bonfires for now. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Well, Israel's West Bank operation update. Britt Clannett reports IDF claiming another major victory in the fighting.
The largest IDF operation in the West Bank is now in its third day. The IDF killing a top Hamas commander in Jenin. Hamas also confirming that death. Now, the city in the northern West Bank is still sealed off. We've seen pictures of major destruction in the camp where most of the fighting took place. Palestinian officials say 16 people have been killed, more than 80 injured.
Now, back here closer to home, police are still investigating the car accident that killed NHL player Johnny Gaudreau and his brother. Sherry Preston with more on what happened.
His love of the game and his skill at it earned Johnny Gaudreau the nickname Johnny Hockey. The 31-year-old had played 11 pro seasons in the NHL, first with the Calgary Flames and then with the Columbus Blue Jackets. He grew up in Salem County, New Jersey, just south of Philadelphia, and it was there he and his brother Matthew were taking a bike ride Thursday night when they were struck and killed by a suspected drunk driver. The brothers were to have been groomsmen in their sister's wedding this weekend. Johnny Gaudreau was married with a 2-year-old daughter and a 6-month-old son.
Election 2024, Vice President Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz sat down with CNN last night for their first formal interview. They talked about policy, Harris's change of heart on issues, on her first day actions. None of it impressed former President Trump.
She didn't look like a leader to me, I'll be honest. I don't see her negotiating with President Xi of China. I don't see her with Kim Jong-un like we did with Kim Jong-un.
And whether you're set to believe your vote will be counted accurately in November may depend on which party you're in. Here's Sherry Preston.
Nearly all Democrats, 97%, say they're confident that the vote they cast in the 2024 presidential race will be counted accurately. Among Republicans, less than half, only 48%, say the same thing. Among independents, almost 2/3 say they believe in the integrity of the voting process and that they think their ballots will have been legitimately counted. When it comes to the outcome of the election, most Americans say they think Kamala Harris will accept the election outcome, but that Donald Trump will not.
Back here in Middle Tennessee, a huge sinkhole sitting in the middle of the Clarksville's City Hall parking lot. A construction truck sitting in the parking lot, sank into the hole, which was reportedly caused by a cistern that was compromised. The construction equipment was rescued. Workers are preparing to fix that hole. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
11:07 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I'm going to give you a break from Kamala Harris, Kamagala, and we're gonna play some of this audio from the Trump rally in Michigan. But first, Gary on the road wants to talk about Harris. What's up, Gary?
All right. Thank you for having me on again, and this is what I want to do. I have a new name for Kamala Harris.
Okay, hit it.
It's Trumpala, because she has adopted so much of Trump's history for the good of this country. She's decided to be him. She can't be Kamala no more. She's Trumpala now.
That's the only way she can win, Gary. Appreciate the call. She's gotta say she's tough on the border. She's got to say, I'm doing a team of rivals too. I'll have somebody that was a Republican, she said, not is a Republican. It's so funny. I tried to get Tim Burchett on to see if he would accept a position in Kamala's cabinet, but he was slammed today. I think
slammed today.
Burchett would be the guy. Burchett would be the guy.
Probably.
Trump in Michigan. Listen, a lot of people say that Trump is off message sometimes and not focused. I'll tell you what, you listen to this speech in Michigan, he was on fire. And the message was that Kamala doesn't care. She doesn't care about you. And you can look at the fruits that she has presented, right? From her 3.5 years as vice president. Wide open southern border, crippling inflation, home prices through the roof, gas prices through the roof, energy prices through the roof. We can go down the list. Instability around the globe. We can go on and on and on. Kamala doesn't care. And Trump made that point, and he drove it home.
Here's what we know about Comrade Kamala Harris. She just doesn't care about the American people, especially hardworking people or middle-class Americans. She just doesn't give a damn about you. She does not care about the deaths, sex slavery, drugs, or criminals coming across our border. She's been vice president for almost 4 years, and she did nothing to stop the invasion of our country. She says that that's not her job, but it is her job. The President of the United States gave her that job. She just didn't do it, and she won't do it now.
No, she just doesn't care. And the the Black Democrat Caucus at the DNC said, we got 70 days to act right, and then we can go back to being crazy. And that's what we'd get with Kamala Harris, and it'll cripple the middle class while she's doing it. And you know what? She'll continue doing it because, as Donald Trump says, she just doesn't care.
She does not care about the middle class struggling over inflation, the cost of gasoline, electricity, and she doesn't care about the cost of food. She does not care if you lose your job.
Nope.
Or cannot find another comparable job. She doesn't care. She does not care if you have to run up your credit card to levels that are unsustainable. She does not care if you and your family are struggling, and she did absolutely nothing to fix it. She's the vice president. She just does not care.
No, she doesn't care. I mean, record amounts of credit card debt under Biden-Harris. People using credit cards to buy groceries. We've seen so much of this under Harris already. Do we want to continue? Kamala Harris doesn't care about women's rights, Donald Trump says.
She does not care about women's rights because she supported destroying women's sports and athletic scholarships. She wants men to play in women's sports. She's one of the leaders. Men should play in women's sports.
She doesn't care. She picks a running mate that puts tampons in the boys' rooms in Minnesota. She doesn't care. She doesn't care about your daughters or your sons. She doesn't care about your families.
She does not care about protecting little children from sex change operations because she chose Tampon Tim as her running mate, who believes the state, not mothers and fathers, should have the final say on sex change operations for their children. Do you know that?
Yep.
The state's allowed to decide whether or not they're going to do a sex change operation on their children. Kamala Harris wants to outlaw your car and truck and force you to buy electric vehicles, whether you like it or not. She couldn't care less. And you can't afford to do that because, again, they don't go far, but they're much more expensive. She does not care how it impacts you and your family.
No, she doesn't care one bit. She doesn't care one bit. And she brags about the green new scam that she's pushed during that interview. Well, we've invested trillions of dollars. Yeah, you invested $7.5 billion and you built 8 electric vehicle charging stations. She doesn't care. And I had one super texter made a great point. Did the government pay for all the gas pumps that were put up? No. But they want more money for the programs, and they don't care how it's going to affect you, your family, your kids. She doesn't care about any of that. She definitely doesn't care about senior citizens.
Kamala Harris does not care about senior citizens because she believes illegal aliens should receive Social Security and Medicare, which she knows will bankrupt those insurance programs, making it impossible for you to receive your pension and your health care, which you paid for your entire life. You've been paying for it. People are going to take it away. Those people that are coming in, remember, they're living in luxury hotels and our veterans are dying on the street. You know that. They're dying on the streets under the hotels. You have pictures last night, veterans dying on the street and other citizens, but veterans dying on the street and inside the hotel, nice and high in nice rooms. The government's paying a fortune to keep illegal aliens that came into our country, many of them criminals. There's something wrong with the thought process.
Yeah, she doesn't care. She doesn't care that illegal aliens are cutting our veterans in line at the VA. She doesn't care. She doesn't care. She doesn't care one bit. And after all this time, we can look at the fruits of her labor, and we can all make the judgment that she doesn't care.
Whether you like it or whether you don't, she doesn't care. Kamala Harris has had nearly 4 years to show us who she is. She is an uncaring politician with a radical ideology. She is a Marxist, just like her father. Despite her campaign of lies and flip-flops, we know who Kamala Harris is. She's the greatest flip-flopper of all time.
And she got called out on some of these flip-flops last night on CNN. Not entirely pressed. They could have pressed harder, but she only gave them 18 minutes for the interview. Because Kamala Harris wants to hide who she is. Her staffers want her to hide who she is. The Democrat Party wants her to hide who she is. But we all know what time it is if Kamala Harris gets in office. It's not going to be a good time at all. And ask the people you know if Kamala cares. Trump says ask police officers if Kamala cares.
Ask the cops in the street trying to protect you from murderers and rapists and thugs if Kamala Harris cares about law-abiding citizens. Remember to fund the police. Ask the families of women raped and murdered by illegal aliens and the teenagers cut to shreds by gangs from El Salvador and Venezuela if Kamala Harris cares about you. She destroyed San Francisco. Harris has opposed school choice for poor inner-city kids. She has opposed police in schools to protect our children. She has defended stocking school library shelves with filthy graphic books, horrible books. She refused to prosecute pedophiles who molested children when she was DA and AG in California. Does this sound like someone who cares about your children?
No, not one bit. Not one bit. I wouldn't let Kamala babysit. Not one bit. Also, just a programming note, when Trump said the books, the pornographic books in your kids' libraries, and just the state of school in general, I am filling in for Brian Wilson today, and at 4:05, Reverend John Amachukwu, Pastor John, Rev Wu Truth, he went to a school board meeting in Baltimore, and he wanted to talk to them about the fact that kids aren't graduating proficient in math, and that they aren't able to read when they graduate high school. You think Kamala cares about that? No. And in fact, the entire city of Baltimore didn't care, and they declared a citywide emergency, and they fled the school board meeting as soon as they saw Pastor John walk in. So at 4:05 today, he's going to be joining the show while I fill in for Brian Wilson in the drive, and he's going to tell us about what happened in Baltimore. And I'm going to ask him if he thinks Kamala cares. Does he think Kamala cares? What about the service member families from Abbey Gate, the ones that lost their loved ones. Does Kamala care?
She does not respect you. Ask the families of the 13 incredible service member heroes who died during the surrender of Afghanistan, which was surrendered by Kamala and Sleepy Joe, whether or not Kamala Harris cares about our young people and our military.
Yeah, Donald Trump was invited by those families to go to Arlington Cemetery, and he went. And it's turned into this big news talking point, which I didn't really want to cover yesterday because I think it's a nothing burger. But they're saying, oh, he took photo. You can't take photos. The Army, an Army spokesperson came out and said you're not allowed to do that. The Army released a statement saying, you're not allowed to take photos. Yet you can look back to a political ad from 2020 of Joe Biden at Arlington Cemetery. He tweeted it out. So it's become this huge story. You can't take photos. You're not allowed to take photos. And there was some sort of altercation. Donald Trump responded to that last night.
Those incredible parents and sisters and brothers, they asked me to go yesterday to Arlington, and I did. And while I was there for a long time. It was very tough to get to because I was not in a good position to get there. It was very far away, but I did. I made it I got there right on time, and I spent a lot of time there. And while I was there, those families that asked me to be there, as they said, 3 families plus 1 soldier who was horrifically injured, both legs and an arm. And they asked me if I would be there, so I went. And while we were there, they said, could you take pictures over the grave of my son, my sister, my brother? Would you take pictures with us, sir? I said, absolutely, I did. And then I said farewell. I said goodbye. And last night I read that I was using the site to politic.
He was politicking, and he's doing what the family members asked him. It's funny. The family members of the service members who lost their life at Abbey Gate, they invited Donald Trump. They didn't invite Kamala Harris because they understand Kamala Harris doesn't care. They didn't invite Joe Biden, who's, again, on vacation this week, because they know Joe Biden doesn't care. Joe Biden checked his watch when their bodies were returned to America in caskets draped with flags. They understand that Kamala Harris doesn't care. The media doesn't care either, actually.
That I used it to politic. This all comes out of Washington, just like all of these prosecutors come out of Washington. They all come out. They send their prosecutors into the DA's office. They send them into the Attorney General's office. These are bad people we're dealing with.
Yep.
So I go there. They ask me to have a picture, and they say I was campaigning. I don't need... The one thing I get is plenty of publicity. I don't need that. I don't need the publicity. But these are great people, and when you think about it, Joe Biden killed their children by incompetence. Should have never happened.
Where's the lie? Where's the lie? And you can see Donald Trump get visibly pissed off when he says this.
Joe Biden killed their children by incompetence. Should have never happened. Kamala killed their children just as though they had a gun in their hand by gross incompetence, and not one general or incompetent bureaucrat was fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
He's absolutely right. And that one event should 100% be disqualifying from Kamala Harris ever taking office, because at the end of the day, that proved beyond a shadow of a doubt Kamala Harris doesn't care. It's 11:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements.
Programming note, I will be filling in for Brian Wilson on the drive this afternoon. Very excited about that. Also very excited to tell you about my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at Busy Bee. August, you got the kids back to school. You got 2 days left, today and tomorrow, to take advantage of their back-to-school special. Busy Bee's buy one, get one free Beehive membership. You buy one in the month of August, and you get to give one to your favorite teacher, coach, faculty, or staff member. Do not miss this deal. It is over after tomorrow. Call Busy Bee today and take advantage of the $99 buy one, get one Beehive Club membership. I mean, if you don't even get a buy one, get one, it's such a good deal. You get 3 annual tune-ups, one for your heating, one for your cooling, one for your plumbing, 10% discount on all repairs, priority front-of-the-line service, an annual accrued replacement credit of $100, and no overtime or holiday fees. This is, again, for just $99. Call Busy Bee today. They're your Rude Pro partner. You won't be disappointed. 615-775-7833. 615-775-7833. Online at busybeehvac.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
There is a prediction about housing in Nashville that renters might like. We'll tell you about it at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Donald Trump wasn't the only one with a rally yesterday. Kamala Harris had one too. And
Wait, she did?
Yeah, they were in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh yeah, on the struggle bus tour.
It was the struggle bus tour, and it was a struggle bus tour for a lot more people than just Kamala Harris yesterday. So they actually had to bus people in from Atlanta.
Why do you think they have the bus?
Well, dude, so it was actually surprising me because a local news station accidentally busted them on this.
Oh,
so they were doing this report. It's like a local Savannah TV station. They're like, "Hey, we got so much energy in town. We haven't had a Democrat president here since Bill Clinton. I think they said 1992." And so they're very excited. They're like, the city's on fire, and there's buses coming in from out of town to bring people to the rally. They bust people from Atlanta. It's a 4-hour ride. How much are they paying these people to go to these rallies? Listen to the news. The local news didn't even realize that they were busting them on this. It's just something that I caught.
But for those a little further away from the hostess city, shuttles to the rally contained a lot of excitement.
I was in Atlanta and I heard that the vice president was going to be in Savannah, so I decided to just kind of beeline over here and check it out.
You can't beeline a 4-hour ride. I'm a beeline over there and check it out. It's like a quick hip and a skop. Hip and a skop. Hop and a skip.
It's a hip and a skop.
It's a hip and a skop. I swear I'm not drinking as much as Kamala Harris does. But they absolutely expose them. It's like, oh, yeah. And for people a little bit further away, like 4 hours? 4 hours? Yeah, a little bit further away.
Shuttles to the rally contained a lot of excitement.
I was in Atlanta, and I heard that the vice president was going to be in Savannah, so I decided to just kind of beeline over here and check it out.
Also, like, at what point is it a shuttle versus a Greyhound trip? You know what I mean? Like, a shuttle to me is like, where were we? We were at, what's the name of that horse race that they do every year?
Oh, Iroquois. Steeplechase.
Yeah, you're at the steeplechase. You're way in the back, and like a golf cart comes and picks you up so you don't have to walk. Like, that's a shuttle, right? Like a shuttle is when you park too far away to do it on the Boot Leather Express. But this is absolutely a bus ride. It's a full on bus ride, 4 hours long. I wouldn't call that a shuttle. And then Kamala Harris gets up there in front of this bussed-in crowd from Atlanta. She's in there in Georgia, and she's talking to the American people. You know, she's saying we're going to have an opportunity economy.
We fight for a future where we build what I call an opportunity economy, so that every American has the opportunity to own a home, to start a business, and to build wealth and intergenerational wealth.
It really blows my mind, the doublespeak from the Democrats, right? There's a couple levels here. So we believe in an opportunity economy. Okay, we'll build it, first of all, right? But you want the middle class to be able to build generational wealth, yet you're also demonizing rich people with generational wealth with your plans for unrealized gains taxes. How can it be both? You can't want the middle class to get rich and then also demonize the rich. You can't say you're for the American dream and then penalize people that won the American dream. You can't do both. But that's the Democrats for you. They constantly try to do both. But what happened next at the rally, as Kamala Harris is interrupted by protesters and is visibly rattled and annoyed and angry, is something you need to hear for yourself, and we'll play it after Ken Weaver's newscast on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast coming up in 5 minutes, and ABC News reporting some progress made in ceasefire talks in Gaza. Meanwhile, Jordana Miller says the IDF announcing it has wrapped up a weeks-long operation in southern parts of the region.
The Israeli army pulling its troops out of Khan Yunis and Deir al-Balah after a major operation that lasted nearly a month. The IDF says it killed 250 militants, destroyed miles of underground tunnels, and recovered the bodies of 6 Israeli hostages. Many Gazans returning to the area absolutely distraught at the destruction. So many homes in rubble. 90% of Gazans have been displaced by this war, and many will come back and find themselves homeless.
Hope you're prepared to get out the door to your Labor Day destination soon. AAA expects the roads to jam up this afternoon. Here's Trevor Ault.
The worst of the traffic is going to be this afternoon and evening, but tomorrow morning it's going to be the opposite. We'll be very busy in the morning, easier later in the day. But the good news, universally for drivers, gas prices have dropped substantially from a year ago. They were $3.82 last year, now down to $3.36 a gallon.
Yeah, right now the Middle Tennessee average per gallon, according to Gas Buddy, is $2.99. Here's some more money news. A Tennessean says that at least one analyst predicts cheaper rent this winter in Nashville. A new Rent Cafe report says it's because of a recent surge in new apartment construction. Rent Cafe estimates 12,192 apartments will be completed by the year's end in Nashville, Antioch, Spring Hill, Lebanon, Madison, Murfreesboro, and Columbia. Currently, the average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in the Nashville area is estimated between $1,900 and $2,000. Joel Sanders with Apartment Insiders is predicting rent will start going up again in 2027. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. It's 11:32 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. It's an election season. There's a lot up in the air. It seems like there's one candidate who really loves the American dream and one candidate who wants to ruin the American dream. How do you plan for your financial future? You're trying to figure it out when it comes to these investments in retirement planning, but a lot of people seem to be saying different things. Well, that's why I trust Paul Winkler and his team at Paul Winkler, Inc. You've heard me talk about him for quite a while, and I'll tell you why I trust him. Paul wants to make sure I tell you I get paid for these commercials for the honesty and the transparency. He wants to start that way. I also want to be completely clear. I don't get paid to be a client of Paul's. I'm a client because I can trust Paul with my financial future, with my kids' financial future. That's huge. And one of the reasons I trust these guys is they do nothing on commission. And they really focus on education. For a guy like me who was financially illiterate before I started talking to Paul, it's massive. And he can give you that same confidence when it comes to your financial future as well. Give him a call today and set up a complimentary consultation. I think you're going to learn more than you ever thought possible and get a clear picture of how they can help you. Call Paul's office today, 615-851-1950, 615-851-1950, online at paulwinkler.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionality, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
$11:36 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. Mason Fleming producing, Jay Harper back in the newsroom. We have an embarrassment of riches of talent when it comes to our news department over here at WTN. All grade A. As we continue, I do want to remind you, September 10th, the debate party is happening at Scoreboard, Cedar Creek, Mount Juliet. Brian Wilson's going to be doing his show live starting at 3 o'clock. Myself, Mandis, Murphy, the whole squad is going to be out there. And if you haven't watched the debate live with a live audience, you got to do it with us.
It's so cool.
There's no better way to watch it. I'm telling you.
It's like a sporting event, but like for our future.
Yeah, I know. There's actual implications for the people watching.
Stakes involved.
Yeah. Yeah, your team loses, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll just go back to my life.
Yeah, better luck next year.
Here, if our team loses, it's like, the Republic might die. So,
yeah.
It's like, it might be the end of the Republic.
There goes my freedom. Oh, no.
Yeah, no. So, there's a little bit more to it. Can Kamala Harris handle the moment? She didn't handle the moment yesterday during the interview. Sitting in a seat, the body language was small. She was awkwardly in a dimly lit Denny's, it looked like, with no one around. Tim Walz towered over her. Dana Bash towered over her. And there she was, shrunk and slunk into her seat. And then she had a rally in Savannah yesterday. She was once again accosted by protesters. The same radical Dems that they were trying to court with a Tim Walz pick for VP. Or maybe better phrasing, the lack of a Josh Shapiro pick. Because, he was a little bit too Jewish for the radical left. That same element of the party, they still continue to protest her. And it happened yesterday. And as this goes down, she becomes visibly irritated, annoyed, and angry. You hear those stories about her staff saying that you're not allowed to look her in the eyes, and they had to say good morning, General, when she walked in. And then you see her in this clip, and you can check it out on my Twitter, @ChrisHandOnAir. Her entire body language and facial expression just turns to red-hot anger.
And across our nation, in addition to that, we are witnessing a full-on assault on other hard-fought, hard-won fundamental freedoms of life.
So she gets visibly irritated. And now, to be perfectly honest, I mean, that would be irritating, right? Anytime you try to give a speech, you're getting interrupted by the same radical protesters that you're trying to court. And if only you were allowed to actually espouse your radical ideology, well, maybe you'd be able to win them over. But the people in your party don't want you to do that. The people in your party want you to say that you're for the border wall now, and that you're against electric vehicle mandates now, and you're for fracking now. Essentially everything you actually believe, the people in your party don't want you to say. So she's like, I could smooth this over pretty quickly, but I'm not allowed to tell people what I really think anymore. So the protesters interrupt her. And she tries to address the protesters. And the body language changes from anger to just shock and fear, to be perfectly honest with you.
Hold up for a second. Let me just say something. We are fighting for a democracy. Everyone has a right and should have their voices heard. I am speaking now, but on the subject.
No, I am speaking now. But her body language completely changes during this ordeal, from visibly irritated and angry to downright nervous, a bit scared, it looked like. And I don't know what she's actually scared of. Obviously, Secret Service is around her. She's protected. But maybe she's scared that she can't live up to these moments. She can't handle the interview with CNN. She can't handle a protester. This moment is too big for her. She couldn't handle the DNC. She's not ready for this.
I will say this. The president and I are working around the clock. We've got to get a hostage deal done and get a ceasefire done now.
It's laughable to me when she says the president and I are working around the clock to get the hostages home and a ceasefire deal done, as we are quickly approaching 1 year since the hostages have been taken. And Kamala Harris is on the campaign trail, and Joe Biden is sleeping on the beach. We are doing everything we can. I swear, we're doing it all. We're around the clock. Around the clock. It's funny, Trump in Michigan, he railed against the fact that Joe Biden is on vacation again.
But do we have a president? He just got back from California. He was supposed to go to the White House. He never got there. He went to Delaware, and he's laying on a beach sleeping all day long. No, seriously, who the hell wants to sleep? And who wants to sleep in public? He's sleeping. Do you think President Xi of China is at a beach sleeping? Do you think Kim Jong-un is sleeping from North Korea with his nuclear weapons all over the place? They don't sleep so much. And we have a guy sleeping, and she's incompetent.
Yeah, he's not wrong. She is incompetent. She can't even handle a protester. She can't. She gets visibly irritated, visibly shaken, downright rattled, and she can barely recover. If you want to call it recovering, I think this is how she recovered after being rattled and shaken by the protesters.
He even called for termination of the United States Supreme, the supreme land of our nation, the United States Constitution.
What does that mean? You can see in the video, her eyes are off the teleprompter completely, which, that's her life force when she's out on these speeches. She can't sustain without that life force. And so her eyes are off the teleprompter and she's looking into the crowd at this protester, and she gets lost. She gets rattled. If you can't handle a protester, how are you going to handle a dictator?
He even called for termination of the United States Supreme, the supreme land of our nation, the United States Constitution.
Whatever that means. Absolutely rattled. Completely rattled. Couldn't get through it. That's who they want us to elect? That right there. All right. I mean, if that's who you're selling, I don't know if the American people are going to be buying. She can't deal with a protester at a rally, and she's had quite a bit of an experience. She's actually dealt with more protesters at her rallies than she's dealt with interviews. She can't handle the interview with CNN. She botches it to the point where the cope online is from the Daily Beast is, oh yeah, the interview was boring, but here's why that's not a bad thing. Here's why that's good. She can't handle anything. She's trying to separate herself from the last 3.5 years of Joe Biden. And she hasn't done it yet. She's been faking her way through flip-flops and trying to adopt Trump policy, and everybody sees right through it. Everyone does. Scott Jennings on CNN was reacting to the interview that happened last night, and he said, listen, we can't let her skip over the last 3.5 years.
I think the two biggest issues coming out of Biden for her are the economic policies, which she clearly wants to embrace, but also the immigration policies. Dana asked her if she had anything to say about what they did for 3.5 years leading up until the back and forth this year. Completely sidestepped it, did not answer it. She goes back to her time as Attorney General. But again, absolutely nothing, no responsibility, no reflection at all on the day one executive actions or anything else they did for 3.5 years or anything she said in her previous campaign, which was to have the most permissive immigration structure. She's trying to skip a block of time at the debate. Trump cannot allow it.
No, and I don't think Trump will allow it. I think Trump is too good. He's going to nail her on it constantly. If Trump was in the room for that CNN Dana Bash interview, he wouldn't have let her get away with some of the answers that she gave. He wouldn't have. Not in a million years. And she doesn't know what to expect from him. She doesn't know what to expect at all. In fact, at the CNN interview, it came out that she's actually never interacted with Trump in person, which was kind of a shocker to me. I figured their paths must have crossed at some point, but they've never interacted in person.
I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that You have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any
same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Okay, that's it. That's it. Yeah, that's funny to me. I think you're not black, you're Indian, you're changing your race depending on your situation is playing really well. And the amount of videos I see where black voters are laughing about it, massive numbers. In fact, just a little while ago on MSNBC, a voter who is mixed race said going to Howard doesn't make you black in regards to Kamala Harris.
I just don't think that Kamala Harris has anything vested in the air finger quote black or Hispanic experience in so much as it would be identified by anybody that lives in those communities.
You're saying you don't think that she can help black or brown people?
No, I mean, going to Howard don't make you black.
Listen, you can find this stuff online. It is absolutely prevalent. And again, today, I'm going to be filling in for Brian Wilson on The Drive starting at 3. And at 4:05, I got Pastor John Amachukwu, who's going to be joining the show. I'm going to ask him about these comments as well. He doesn't get into the race baiting BS, Pastor John. He just doesn't. And he's been very critical of Kamala Harris putting on a different face for different audiences. And I think that's a very real criticism. It's a very real criticism, and it's a criticism that's resonated in the black community. It is hot sauce in the purse Hillary pandering that we've seen from Kamala Harris. And at that Savannah rally, again, she had on her southern accent last night, pandering again. I think people are tired of pandering. I think people want authenticity. And there's only one candidate right now running for president in 2024 that is authentic. There was another guy that was pretty authentic to who he was, but he dropped out and endorsed Donald J. Trump. People can knock Trump for the black or Indian comments, but it works. It's working. It's 11:50 on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
I started working in the early 60s, and Tennessee had a deer stalking program already in place going, primarily from Clarksville base within the Fort Campbell area. From that area, a lot of deer were stalked in middle and west Tennessee, and then later on, we started taking deer from those areas and stalking other areas. So it was a progression. It moved pretty fast. The deer sometimes were faster than the stalkers were.
I bet that was pretty exciting trying to trap those deer and move them and know that you're making a huge impact.
Well, we wasn't all that confident.
Oh, really?
Because a lot of the counties had dog problems. You know, they'd be wanting to dog the deer, and it didn't hold up under that kind of pressure. And we had to go back in and restock. And there was a lot of different types of law enforcement work that had to be done.
I hear you.
And the officers did a good job. And we talked to a lot of the judges, and they clamped down pretty hard on somebody poaching deer out there. Back then, we only put out 15 or 20 deer. It was critical. In fact, at that time, it could cost you your truck.
Yeah. It's an amazing success story. You hear folks saying, well, we didn't see a deer when I was a kid, and now you just have to walk out your back door and you got in a subdivision grazing or driving down the interstate highways or whatever, you see a deer just about every day.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if we're too efficient.
Some folks say back in the good old days, but I don't know. Right now, hunting and fishing is really good.
11:52 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how you doing? My name is Chris Hand. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. We got a lot going on today. Matt Murphy is out. Cameron Smith is filling in for him. Brian Wilson on the drive is off. I'll be filling in for him. I'm actually very excited about that. In the middle of the two shows, I'll be prepping a brand new show, and then Mason and I, we're going to go get a bite to eat.
Yeah.
Get some grub. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be fun.
So there's never a shortage of news, though. I had a couple people say, like, oh, what are you going to do? I was like, oh, I'm going to prep a new show. There's already tons of new stuff. My slot is in a weird spot where a lot of times I can prep the night before, and I mean, unless something breaks that's massive, like I can really rely on what I did. I usually prep till about like 1 a.m. and I can rely on that prep. But I mean, stuff breaks during the day, and we're going to be covering it all afternoon on the drive. Very, very much looking forward to it. You know, one of the things that made me fall in love with this station when I moved to Middle Tennessee some years ago was Phil Valentine in Afternoon Drive. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. And it's just like a full circle moment to be like, holy crap, I'm filling in on Afternoon Drive. It's been a whirlwind since getting here. So I appreciate all you guys tuning in and listening and being a part of it. And I hope I see you guys out at Scoreboard in Cedar Creek and Mount Juliet on September 10th for our debate watch party. Those events are awesome. They're good fun, like-minded people, but it's also a great opportunity to network. You know, we always get people that, believe it or not, conservatives actually start their own businesses. So we have business owners and community leaders that come out to these things, and it's great opportunity to network. So we want to see you out there. Details are online at 997WTN.com. One of the things that I'm going to be talking about this afternoon on the drive is what happened in Baltimore on Tuesday. You may not have heard of this. The mainstream media is not going to cover this, but I got a good friend. He goes by the name Pastor John Amachukwu. And what Pastor John does is he goes around city to city, and he invades these school board meetings, and he calls them out on what's going on in their school district. It is a thankless job, but we appreciate him doing it. So a lot of times he'll go and he'll tell people, like, listen, this is the book you have in your library, and he'll read it, and he'll get shut down at these meetings. So he wanted to go to Baltimore. Baltimore is a school district that is in chaos. I think chaos would be an improvement. The cost that they have to educate students in Baltimore is among the highest in the nation. And these kids are graduating, and about 90% of them aren't proficient in math. About 90% of them aren't proficient in reading. It's awful. And that's one of the most expensive areas to educate a kid. Meanwhile, the heads of some of these schools are clearing like $500,000 in salary every year. For what? Where is the success? So Pastor John wanted to go down there and talk to them about what's going on. And they decide to declare a citywide emergency.
I'm here in Baltimore. But as you can see, no one is sitting on the board right now. They had a citywide emergency. And they did this right before we got to public comments. Everyone has their property still sitting at their desk. This is the liberal shake and bake, all right? This is how they move their agenda forward. They know that I'm here. I have the power to create a citywide emergency. One man, and keep in mind, not a white man, but an African American. You be the judge. Is that because there's a real issue going on? Or is it because they know that they're getting ready to hear the truth?
Yeah, well, they didn't want to hear the truth, and they fled as soon as they saw Pastor John in the building. It's actually a lot of work for him to go to these school board meetings. You know, you have to be a resident, so they're going around, and it's like a huge process. Like, they're renting properties and making him a resident in these cities so that way he can get in and speak the truth at these school board meetings. And one of the things that he had to say about Baltimore is, you're not acknowledging the root causes of these problems. You know, you blame Baltimore is predominantly African American, and you blame white people for your problems. But you have a black mayor, a black governor, a predominantly black school board, and you don't address the problems of fatherlessness and broken homes and the lack of respect that these students give the teachers. You don't address those problems. You'll address systemic racism. You'll go full CRT. You'll go full victim mentality. And John doesn't play any games, so I'm very excited to have Pastor John on the show later on. He asked a group of black police officers, there was about 6 police officers that rolled up on him to escort him off the premises. And he asked them why they're ignoring the real problems.
They come up with a plan to adjourn the meeting because of a citywide emergency. I just want to ask some questions. You all have a citywide emergency, right? Strange is everyone has their stuff still at their desk. The citywide emergency is me. You are defrauding me of my freedom of speech. This is the issue with why we have failing schools in Baltimore. I came to deliver my message and to preach and to share something with this board, to give them some pointers on what we could do to better things for our people, and y'all silence the black preacher. If they can't kill us in the womb, they have homicide in the classroom. Our people can't read, they can't write, they can't do math. They're the next victims for being on the corner that y'all got to go arrest and deal with. And if anyone should be upset right now, it should be the citizens. They are now witnessing what happens when an alternative decision or viewpoint shows up. This right here is a statewide emergency. The Bible. A preacher who preaches the Bible is a statewide emergency.
We're going to talk to John Amachukwu, Pastor John, at 4:05 today when I fill in for Brian Wilson in the drive. I'm going to go take a little break. Cameron Smith is in next. It's 12 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.